this episode of Blue Zoo TV presented by Hikari, we're heading back to the Newport Aquarium in Newport, Kentucky, as Jeff Gabula gives us a tour of their new exhibit, The Bizarre and the Beautiful. We're back at Newport Aquarium with our man, Jeff Gabula. And remember the old shirt? I haven't even worn this shirt yet from the other day. Celebrate your weirdness. I like how it's your weirdness. So we've went and looked at some other tanks, smaller tanks, but now we get to one of the big mamas of the group.
Right.
And this is weird in the sense that, what? It's because it's corals? It's because you have 32,000 pounds of live rock? I mean, what's the weirdness of this?
Well, this is one of the marquee tanks in the exhibit. It's Bizarre and Beautiful is the name of the gallery. And corals, their life cycle, that they're animals that stay sessile was a little bit weird for us. And we wanted to explain that to people. But also we wanted to pull some cool fish in there, some reef-safe fish that are going to do some good stuff. But the real story about this tank is the corals that we're going to be putting in here over the next, hopefully, 10 to 15 years. It's a 5,200 gallon, 20-foot long tank. It turns over 9 times an hour.
This isn't like a car show where you're going to bring the car that you've worked on and you bring it out and that's as far as it goes. This is truly a beautiful work in progress, because you just said this could be a display for 10 or 15 years. You don't just throw corals on somewhere. They have to grow. You kind of propagate your own. Is
Correct.
That how it works?
We do a mixture. We propagate our own, which is the method that we do. We work with a lot of other zoos and aquariums if they have surplus or we have surplus of something's doing well with our tanks, something's doing well with their tanks, we'll frag it, we'll do other kinds of things. They'll get too much, we'll have too much, and we'll trade. That's the preferred method. We don't like taking pieces of coral out. So when we do reef exhibits, the best thing for reef exhibits in my mind is to make them self-sustaining. So you get animals that are going to do the work that my biologists or our biologists are going to have to do. And one of those guys, sometimes we have to sand sift gravel because it's such a thick bed of gravel in this. It's over 6 inches of sand in here for everything to break down. We got like gobies down here that if there's too much nutrient or too much light, because we're pounding them with light, we want to get the gravel cleaned. And one of the best ways to do it is these blue bar gobies. And all they do all day is pick and sift through sand. So great for a small exhibit. 55 gallons, 75 gallon, 125, 1 to 2 of them.
So when you come to an exhibit and you're looking at the rock like this, a work in progress, you have to look close because you have some fish that are actually, they almost look like they're part of the rock. He almost looks like his own coral. What is that?
That happens to be a lawnmower blenny, another working fish in this exhibit. Different algae. When tanks are new, you hear about new tank syndrome, and you hear about, you go through your hair algae stage, you go through your macroalgae stages, all this kind of stuff. Well, you sort of have to have these little guys in there that move around and take care of what they got to do and take care of their little niche. And so that's one of the biggest lawnmower blennies I've ever seen.
Fish love frozen foods that are full of the nutrition they need and not freeze or burn. Hikari BioPure offers the world's only frozen foods that are gut-loaded with bio-encapsulated multivitamins and packaged for maximum freshness. Our no-touch, mess-free cube packs offer portions that are easy to adjust and keeps the food completely airtight and in optimum condition. Gone are the days of having to rinse the food before feeding, because Hikari BioPure is packed in pure, fresh water, making it the world's cleanest frozen food.
Now, Jeff, obviously, we're spending a lot of time talking about the fish, but this is, at some point, it already is, but it's going to be a true living organism in itself, and you've added a lot of different pieces to it, like the coral that you have.
Right, there's different things in here. There's mushroom corals, there's toadstools right now, a lot of softies, because at this point we're starting off with the softies, get them established, we'll trim them back, and then we'll start adding the hards, and the stonies, and that's sort of backwards to most people would think, but in this case, it's the way we have to do it. There are clams in here that are doing very well, and it's amazing how much calcium they suck out. We had a 525 part per million calcium level, put the clams in 3 days later, we're at 250, and they are just sucking, we're just depleting calcium like crazy. They're pulling it out of the water.
Jeff, obviously this is, a reef, living organism, and there's clams all over. When you guys lay out a design for this huge tank, have you decided where do you put the clams, or is it more random?
It's a mixture of both. We definitely make shelves and areas for these animals, and what we're planning, this is going to be this is going to be for hard, this is going to be for soft, this is going to be for clams. But obviously with all the movement and the changes in the rockwork, you find niches and places for them to go. As long as they get food flow, good water flow, they're self-sustaining and a little bit of light. And some of them can even be underneath the rock shelf a little bit and do fine.
Obviously when we talk, Jeff, about putting on a great display, you want color, and it's always easy when you're dealing with saltwater fish. But you've got a variety of fish here, like the yellow tangs. Tell us a little bit about them.
Okay, so like I said, we're trying to build a reef, and these are working fish. Tangs, you got to fit that color. You want to fit what the public wants to see, but you also want to do some work. And tangs are great. Tangs love the algae, the macroalgae specifically, hair algae. They'll get onto even small. And there's perfect research that they actually will graze and actually grow algae. They'll actually have sort of little farms that they swim around a reef to. And we're seeing a little bit of that in this tank since it's long enough. They'll actually have little grottos of area that they pick. They pick every day, and they just leave a little bit so that they have a little bit of a food source the next day. But it keeps the nutrient levels balanced, so it's a perfect mix. Powder blues are some of my favorites. I really like those guys. What's great about them is kids love Nemo. And if you're going to get a hippopotamus tang, which I consider the hippopotamus tang one of the hardest tangs to deal with, it hides a lot. So great fish, great color, great attitude, and it will stick up for itself. It's not a pain in the butt to feed like a hippopotamus would be.
Now most of the fish you have in here, like the blue tang, how much bigger can it get?
That guy, they can get up to about 8 inches, so they can get pretty good size. He'll be in here for the rest of his life, though. He's fine in this size tank. But we like to mix them. I like to mix in not just a yellow tang, but a yellowfin, purple, and a sailfin. So you have the same general shape. They will school together if you have so many of them, which is great. But you have color.
And the beautiful thing about that is that you've got just vibrant colors in pretty much the same family. So when they school, it really pops.
Everyone knows marine fish hate pellets, right? Not when they're fed Hikari Marine S or Marine A, the world's first sponge-like marine pellets. Chock full of natural ingredients your marine fish need and love, these rapidly softening, sinking pellets provide them a taste and texture your fish will instinctually adore. Ingredients like fatty acids, DHA, and EPA round out a nutritional package that's hard to beat. If you want your fish looking like they just came off the reef, feed them Hikari Marine S or Marine A.
Jeff, one of the really unique fish in here are the Banggai cardinal fish. Tell us a little bit about them.
Banggais are for fun. They're reef-safe fish. They can breed in captivity if you have the right parameters for them. They're just spectacular. They like to hang out for the most part. They sort of sit there. A little bit hard to feed in the beginning, but once they get going, they're really good.
I noticed that there's a couple of them in here, but they're all separated. They school often, or are they loners?
When they get to be adults, they separate into small. They separate by themselves for the most part. When they're a little younger, we don't know if they're male-female right now, so that's the whole point. But when they are smaller, they hang out together more, and then they sort of get bigger and bigger territories. But then they will pair up, and they will breed again, start their own little family, and go.
Well, those are some that you can also put in smaller tanks. They don't have to be in a 30,000-gallon tank.
Yeah, they don't need to have a lot of room. 55's fine.
And you've got, just so people know, you've probably got about 7 or 8 full-size Volkswagens in here, weight-wise, for rock. 32,000 pounds.
Right, and it was all hand-placed and put together. So it took one of our biologists, or 2 of our biologists, about 2 months to really get them to feel it, and you can climb on it. It's solid. You can climb on this stuff. It's not a big deal. We took hammers, chisels, drills, zip ties, and placed everything in there.
So when you're sitting home trying to figure out where you're going to put your 10 pounds of rock, just think of how hard it was for 32,000 pounds.
It's a big jigsaw puzzle. Lots of fun.
Jeff, so this is day 1, but you're going to let us come back tomorrow, right?
Yep, totally come back.
I want to see the scallops. We got to see all that stuff.
Okay, we'll definitely get through it.
Cool, thanks.
To learn more about the show or to email us, go to bluezootv.com.